Welcome to Ask Stago, expert answers to your expert questions.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ask Stago. I am Cécile, Hourquet, Project Manager, and I'm really pleased to co-host a new episode of this podcast with Audrey Carlo, our scientific manager. Hello, Audrey.
Hello, Cécile.
Today is a really special episode, Audrey. Can you tell us why?
Well, as you know, Cécile, our podcast is usually dedicated to answer any scientific or technical question about hemostasis or the daily organization in the lab. But you know, if I'm doing this job, actually, it is because I know that diagnostics is of primary importance to be sure that physicians can provide accurate care to patients. And today, we are on October 13, and this is a very special day because it is World Thrombosis Day.
Did you know that thrombosis is a condition that contributes to the death of 1 in 4 people around the world every year? We have decided to create a special episode and participate in the World Thrombosis Day (WTD) campaign that is dedicated to bring awareness around clotting.
To participate to this amazing initiative, we wanted to share with our listeners the story of 3 patients affected with coagulation issues, a way to help everyone to be more aware about the risks, their symptoms, but also to shed light on the lab importance and how the lab staff agents can play a key role in everyday diagnosis and treatment for patients.
We are glad to be able to talk with another thrombosis survivor today, Chris Pugh. Hello, Chris.
Hi.
Thank you for having kindly accepted our invitation today. Chris, you live in England, if I'm right?
It's Grantham, which is near Nottingham. Nearest big city is Nottingham, about 20 miles away.
And you actually survived to a stroke event.
Yes.
And when did it happen?
17th of August. Yeah.
Okay, so that's quite recent.
Yes. Yeah.
So sometimes going back through those memories are not really nice. Would you mind telling us your story about what happened and how did you realize that something was wrong?
Yeah, but from my point of view, it was I just went to sleep as normal. I had a very, very slight headache probably the night before, which is unusual for me. I don't normally get any headaches or anything like that. I got up to go to the toilet about 5 o'clock in the morning. Got to the toilet, came back, and I always have a drink next to me at the side of the bed. And I went to pick up the glass, it just dropped out of my hands, a pint glass. All I was worried about was my wife waking up and giving me a load of grief at that point in time. But as I leant on my other arm to try and pick it up, I realised I couldn't pick it up. She woke up. I joked, I think I'm having a stroke, but I didn't really think I was having a stroke. I just thought I'd woken up with a slightly, we sorted it out. I topped and tailed and went back to sleep. And then I woke up a few hours later, feeling pretty normal, not really noticing any different. And then I got up and did my normal sort of thing, did some yoga. I went for a run. I came back and did 45 minutes on the indoor bike. And then I drove an hour drive down to see my children, played a bit of golf on the driving range, and then I started feeling a little bit dizzy, and then I drove to my daughter's house and they were a bit concerned. The strange thing was when I was there, I was texting my mum and a couple of people, and I was struggling to put the words down. I was typing things out and it just wasn't coherent what I was trying to say, and I had to keep on deleting and repeating what I was trying to say. And again, didn't really think anything more to it then. They didn't want me to drive home, but I did. But they said I'd just ring up the 111, which is our local sort of emergency doctor type of thing in the UK, where you can ring up and get some over the phone some advice. And I took them through what had happened. They then pushed me through to somebody else, and they just recommended just go into our local emergency department. The nearest one in my town was only a small hospital, so that was closed. So we drove about another 30 miles to the next one, and then just went into the emergency place waiting to be seen. And so you go through triage, and then you see a doctor. The doctor again just you repeat the story what's going on. And again, I'm still not really feeling any particularly. I had a little bit of numbness in my fingers, very, very, very slight. And then the third doctor went on to a initial CAT scan, and then I was seen to with one of the stroke nurses came down, and I was given my own separate little bay. And then they had another CAT scan, this time with a bit of fluid in, so they could get a bit more definition, I understand, from the scan, and a bit more understanding what had really happened, whether it was a clot. They were concerned, obviously, that it had been a clot. And then I was just transferred at about 5 o'clock in the morning to the ward. I had an MRI the next day, and then it was another day before I found out the full results of that. And I had a very quite unusual doctor talk to me. He was quite a character, and obviously went through the results and showed me the scan and that I'd had a stroke.
So it took nearly 24 hours, if not 48 hours between your first symptoms and the diagnosis to be given?
Really properly, yeah. I mean, I think they knew on the night of the first, and they were obviously monitoring and all of that type of thing that you do in hospital. I was kept in obviously overnight, and then I was in through till the Thursday, when I was a bit naughty because I was just trying to get out because I honestly felt quite fine, and I didn't feel that I felt I was taking up a bed. I pushed for an early release on the Thursday to get out.
And so you did not go to any thrombolysis with your clot? They did not induce the clot to disappear?
I was just on aspirins for 2 weeks, and that's all I had really, was just aspirin each day, even when the first day in the hospital. From then I've been on clopidogrel.
Actually, you asked for being discharged quite early from the hospital, but the last doctor you saw, what did he told you about this clot?
What they were concerned about was trying to find the reasons why I had a clot, and there's some sort of medical history that I have that could be a contributing factor that we're still investigating at the moment. Unfortunately, at the moment, because of what's happening with COVID, a lot of smaller procedures are just in such a long wait, so that's not yet taken place.
Or we can also see in a positive way that maybe your healthy way to live, you told us that you were doing your gym in the morning before learning about it, or things like that, are also helping to diminish the effect of such events.
And do you have any outpatient appointments now?
After care, I obviously had initially straight away in the hospital, there was physiotherapy, consultation, and then some occupational therapy. Following that, for a month, I had a weekly visit from, again, the local stroke team, as they call, and we did the same thing. So in many ways, I'm back to normal, and I consider myself very lucky that I can do what I've been doing, in terms of my exercise and so forth.
Previously, when you started your story, you said that on that very first night, you joked saying, well, I think I have a stroke, and then you went back to bed and get a sleep back. Were you really aware about the stroke symptoms?
I would say yes, I probably was, but it just didn't dawn on me. That's the only way I could put it. If it happened to somebody else, I probably would think it was a stroke. It just didn't dawn on me. If I hadn't promised my kids I would phone up, I would almost certainly not have gone to hospital that evening, and that's what the danger would have been, and I would have gone back to my normal week of exercise, and something that would have been the danger for me.
So what is interesting is that sometimes people can, expect from a stroke to be like a large event when you fall down. And in your story, we can say that sometimes the symptoms can be quite quiet. Your example is a good example. Like, it can happen to anybody. It can be quite soft, but you should always take care about these kind of things.
That's right.
Today, and you helped a lot, I think.
Yeah.
Good.
Again, clotting disorders can happen to any one of us. It's now time to close this episode. Thank you all for listening. We can only encourage you to listen to our podcasts for the World Thrombosis Day Part 1 and 2, dealing with deep vein thrombosis and pulmonary embolism, respectively.
If you want to learn more about thrombosis in general and the symptoms, please go to the World Thrombosis Day website at www.worldthrombosisday.org and follow them on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or LinkedIn. You can use the hashtag WTD also to bring awareness and participate to this amazing day. And as usual, next week will be a normal episode. So if you have any question about the hemostasis and the hemostasis bench organization, please feel free to send it to us at our email address, ask@stago.com, and we'll be glad to answer it in the next episode. So, as we say, next week will be a normal episode. So see you next time.
This podcast is brought to you by Stago. Diagnostics is in our blood.